Pleasurable. And so when you take the time and you begin to discover your partner's body, not just husbands discovering the wife's body, but the wife discovering the husband's body as well. When you take the time to do that, and when you focus on pleasing your partner, and when you participate in selfless, not selfish sex, where I got mine off, I'm good, now I'm snoring on one side of the bed, but we do this nice and slow and build it up. Because the more we begin to build it up, it brings anticipation in, and now we both are sexually satisfied because it leads to ultimate orgasm. Now, as it relates to foreplay, because that's one of the issues that we're talking about, obviously, men can get there much quicker than women. They say that men are like microwaves, and women are like crock pots. So it may take us 30 seconds, not even that long sometimes, and we're there, we're ready to go. And the first thing we want to do is penetrate. But it takes a woman a lot longer. And if you don't take the time to participate in foreplay, I mean, you can look at foreplay two different ways. Fore, meaning it comes before. Or for, meaning our play should exist 4 times as long as the actual penetration. And when I'm taking the time to do this, during this, she's satisfied. I'm 9 times out of 10 going to be satisfied. Okay? You're free to ask questions, write questions down on paper, and for us to address issues if I'm saying something that kind of provokes a thought. But foreplay is important. Now, 2 areas of foreplay I want to quickly talk about, and Danielle, feel free to interject. Number 1, we're talking about physical foreplay. And a lot of times men have an issue pleasing a woman when it comes to foreplay because he treats her like, okay. And that's all it is. So we go straight for nipple, and we go straight for the vagina. And we forget everything else because we're one-dimensional in our sexuality. And if I can quickly turn her on, that way she's ready to go. But no, you have to discover every area of her body. You need to begin to understand her erogenous zones. Because there are 8 to 9 erogenous zones that every person has on their body. And when you begin to discover that and make the breast in the vagina the last thing you do, oh, she's ready to go. You don't have to ask to penetrate. You don't have to attempt. She will pull you into her. Danielle, go ahead.
Somebody had mentioned faking orgasms. And when you fake an orgasm, you're really cheating yourself. And I wanted to add to the whole foreplay piece that, getting into a conversation with your spouse about what you like and don't like is okay. But I think both of you have to kind of sit down with one another and say that it's okay. Men typically have that ego issue where they feel like they know what they're doing, and maybe we as women sometimes do a little bit too much covering of their egos. And we don't want to say what we're not really liking or not feeling. So you might fake an orgasm just to get it over with. You just want to be done. Let me not mess up his ego. I don't feel like the conversation. I don't want to see the expression or whatever. But you're really cheating yourself by doing that. And what you really need to do is sit down, both of you, because you know what? Your husband wants to be pleased and you want to be pleased. So why not come to that common ground and sit down with a checklist, just like Hassani said, the 50 questions, there's some sex questions on there, and find out what you really like so that you can have an open dialogue. There will never be a need to have a fake orgasm if you know what each other like, because if you're not getting there in the middle of having sex, you should say something. It's okay. It's your spouse. You're butt naked. That's the deepest level of intimacy there is. So if you can lay in the bed naked with one another, you can't stop and say, okay, can you do it? I don't like it like this. Can we do it this way or a little bit different? You have to get comfortable being intimate with one another. You have to be able to discuss what you like and you don't like. These blockages that we have in our relationship have to go so that we can go to the deeper level. How can you grow up tall in your relationship if you don't have a strong foundation of intimacy and communication? You can't. So if I can talk to you about the bills, if I can talk to you about the kids, I should be able to talk to you about the sex. Because we both want to be pleased there, right?
Right.
So let's get rid of these blockages and let's talk to one another about what we want so we both can be pleased and lay in the bed one day and just be like, wow, we really just did, like, that was awesome. Were you pleased? Yeah, I'm good. You good? Yep, I'm good. Now let's go eat some food. That's what you want. You don't want one person, oh, you know, that was whack, but it was good, you know, because you're lying when you're doing the fake orgasm. It's really lying. So.
Yeah, so great point. And let's jump into this list over here, because a couple things came to mind. Oh, the other form of foreplay. This is important. This is important. This is important. So there's a chapter in the book, 7 Days of Extraordinary Sex, entitled Becoming the Best Lover Outside the Bedroom. That as, I'll just speak for me. You know, when it comes to, many of us, when it comes to sex, that's what it's about. It's about the physical sexual experience, not anything that leads up to it. But really, foreplay begins at the beginning of the day. It's how you wake up next to each other. It's what you say to one another. It's how you treat one another. Because one of my issues was my tone and my criticism. And so I could say one thing that would literally destroy her emotionally, but then at the end of the night, I wanted what I wanted. So I gave her no emotional foreplay. So being the best lover outside the bedroom means tying your hands up and not physically touching her, but communicating, right, to her or with her with your body language, with your tonality, with your words, with your expressions of love. You know, and that brings in the climate of romance in your relationship. And that's where these books come in. 101 Ways to Love Your Husband or to Love Your Wife. We give you all the tips and the ideas of what you can do to have a romantic climate and atmosphere in your relationship. It's not about being romantic for a day, but it's about consistency. And romance doesn't mean, let me do something huge and big that'll last for a couple months before I have to do something again. I think it was Mark Twain who said that if I got one good compliment, it'll last me for 2 months. Well, that doesn't work in most relationships. You have to be consistent. Consistently constant, constantly consistent, whatever it is, and you have to constantly be interjecting romance in. And when you begin to do that, now anybody ever heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages?
Yes.
So you know that book. So one of the love languages is what? Physical touch. Non-sexual physical touch. So just holding my wife's hand, rubbing my fingers through her hair, giving her a quick shoulder or back massage with no strings attached, with no agenda, with no motive, but just doing it as an expression of love. It opens her up. And likewise, a woman to a man, because a lot of men have that as their number one, love language. They need that. That's important to them. And so when you begin to do that, it creates an atmosphere of being physical, so it's easy to transition into the bedroom. But if the only time you touch is when you're having sex, that's a problem, a major problem, because it becomes that much more challenging to engage in it because you don't do it throughout the course of your day and throughout the course of your relationship. All right, now, the next category, the next marital sex pattern, the last one, is hot, steamy, passionate, over the top, acrobatic, we're getting it in, sex. This is more of the recreational, fun sex. Now, this could be a phenomenal experience, but you know what can dampen it? You know what can cheapen it? This. You see that? Porn. And so one of the issues, I guess we need to just discuss whether it's acceptable to engage in pornography in your marriage. Our position as Couples Academy is that it is not. It is not. Because what happens is a number of things happen. Porn can affect the wife, porn can affect the husband, porn will definitely affect the relationship, porn affects the children, porn affects everybody. Because number one, you're participating in voyeurism, so you're engaging in watching other people have sex. 9 times out of 10, the people who you watch have sex aren't married. They're sex workers. That's what they do for a living, right? So now you're fixated on something outside of your bedroom. So now I'm looking at this woman's body. And now when I engage in sex with my wife, I'm envisioning this woman's body on my wife's face. Or I'm taking my wife's body but replacing her head or her face with someone that I saw in a video. Or vice versa, right? we begin to do that. We begin fixated on what we see. Or what it can do, it can create appetites and desires in us that are challenging to experience in your marriage. Because when it comes to pornography, let's just keep it real. Pornography, in most pornography, is created from a male perspective, and all it is penetration. It's a woman pleasing a man. And a man that is addicted to porn ultimately can become a lousy lover. Because there is no foreplay in porn. There is no romance in porn. There is no mutual exchange in a lot of porn. It's a woman pleasing a man. And a woman is hot in 2.3 seconds. And she's moaning and she's groaning in 2.3 seconds. And the more pain you give her, the more pleasurable it becomes. And so now you take what you saw in that pornography and bring it into your marriage and wondering why things aren't working out. And porn is nothing more than an exaggeration oftentimes of a true sexual experience. And so it can be very damaging. And I know several people personally who've allowed porn to enter into their life, so much so, and I'm talking pastors, somebody say pastors, that will travel to other countries and have sex with women, prostitutes, right? To get a sexual experience from another woman that they're not getting from home. Did I say that? I said that. Yep. Mm-hmm. Born and raised in the church, saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, all of that. But when it comes to this area, they struggle tremendously. And so this is why it's important that you turn to one another and you have true intimacy in conversations and you begin to engage in conversations about what one likes and what one doesn't like. And there's so many other outlets beyond pornography that you can use to learn about new things to do and new things to try to spice up your marriage.
Not that we've been involved in porn, but we decided to do our own videos and our own pictures to add some spice to our relationship.